And welcome back. In this video you will learn about the language of influence, so you can have a greater influence and impact with the classes you teach and the people you work with. Just imagine for a moment that you are teaching a class and that just by saying a few words in the right way you can engage your students, influence them, motivate and help them come up with their own solutions to any problems that they may face. Now that would be cool, wouldn't it? Now, in previous videos, we have mentioned that Bandler and Grinder modelled excellent communicators. One of them was Milton Erickson. He was a world-famous hypnotherapist. Erickson was so impressed with Bandler and Grinder's work that he wrote the foreword to some of their earlier work and earlier books. In one of them, he describes suffering from polio and being bedridden. This is where he spent most of his time developing his sensory acuity to a really advanced level. As well as modelling Erickson's ability to gain rapport, Bandler and Grinder mapped his language patterns and noticed some really effective patterns to gain influence, make suggestions and induce trance. Just by having a conversation with his clients, he was able to create change. One of Erickson's skills was to be artfully vague. In other words, he would use abstract terms and generalizations. Vague language is highly effective because it gets people in an altered state of mind. When people are in this state, it's easier to make suggestions and give instructions. These soft language patterns are powerful tools for the classroom and in life in general. Now, if your ethical button has just been pressed, it's just worth mentioning that these patterns have been around for a number of years. They're used in sales and in a therapeutic context. And as the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. Meaning if you have the ability to do something, make sure you do it for the good of others. Okay, let's just move on. Let's take a look at some of these language patterns. The first one we have is presuppositions. Presuppositions are hidden meanings in sentences, phrases, or individual words that work covertly or indirectly. Here are a few that you can use in the classroom. This is the one. The first exercise is the hardest. This presupposes that the next exercise is easier. Here's another. Knowing this is just the beginning. This presupposes that there's more to be learned. Here's another. On Tuesday you will learn even more skills. This presupposes that a lot has already been learned and that you'll be learning some more again. There's another presupposition technique called the double bind. It's very useful when wanting to limit the number of choices or possibilities for a child. For example, you could say, Mike, would you like to start the questions or draw the graph first? This presupposes that Mike will start work now, and the fact that the he chooses makes it more empowering for him too. Here's another. It's called covering all bases. Have you noticed how you have felt when you have not been included in something? Yeah, you probably feel neglected, ignored or not part of something. Well, this can happen with your students or with the groups that you work with. One way to avoid this is be inclusive at the start, is to use a language pattern called covering all bases. It works by making sure that all the people are included. Here's an example. I know that some of you have worked with phonics before, some of you are new to this, and some of you have even learnt your sight words. Let's take a look at some blending letter sounds, etc., etc. You know where we're going with this. So you basically included everyone in that pattern. Here's another pattern. This is called a yes set. Now you may have noticed this with public speakers, salespeople, politicians, and this was used a lot by Milton Erickson. It's all about saying 3 undeniable facts to get an internal agreement, a yes. It works by saying 3 facts, saying a command, and then adding a yes tag on the end. Here's an example. It's 9:30 a.m. We have finished the roll. We have 5 minutes until assembly. So now would be a good time to pack your reading book away and line up at the door, wouldn't it? Notice the pattern at the end, wouldn't it? This is called a yes tag, and it's very difficult to say no to. So you're getting an internal yes with the students. Other yes tags are phrases like can't you, and you can you not? Or haven't you, or have you? Final one, and that's right. This pattern is particularly useful when explaining rules in order to gain agreement. Lucy, I've explained what the consequences are to you now, haven't I? Now it would be easier for you to get this done next time, shouldn't it? There's some yes tags. Okay, moving on. Here's some small words with big meanings that you may want to use or want to avoid actually in the classroom. Avoid using if. Now, if implies choice, unless you want to allow choice. So, for example, if you do that again, you'll be in detention. This actually implies that the behaviour will actually happen again. The next one is try. This has a presupposition built into it that you actually might fail. And as Yoda said from Star Wars in The Empire Strikes Back, do or do not. There is no such thing as try. Next one is but. And this can put people on the defensive as it negates what has just been said. For instance, what sounds better? The first example or the second example? Here we go. You have come up with some really creative ideas, but you need to add more details to your sketches. Or this example, you have come up with some really creative ideas, and to make it even better, you could add some more detail to your sketches. The second example. Another interesting word is don't. Just don't think about a blue elephant for a moment. The truth is we cannot not think of something. Rather than saying don't talk, say silence please. And I would actually say silence rather than quiet, because quiet for one person can be totally different for another. Say the desired behaviour, and if you want to stop talking, use silence. Here's another example. Don't distract Johnny Milo. Instead of saying this, you could say, Milo, focus on your own work and allow Johnny to continue his learning. Here's an exercise to help you get started. Write down a list of negative try, if, don't statements that you or other members of staff have used. Now write them in a positive manner to describe the desired behaviour. Print this out and stick it onto your desk as a gentle reminder, and then you can use it any time. And like anything, the more you use it, the easier it becomes until you know these patterns naturally. Okay, that's it for this one. You'll see me in the next.